Good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, everyone. My name is Katie Cline. I'm an instructor at Kansas State University, where I received my master's degree in children's literature in May 2020. Like most of us, I found myself binge watching a lot of Netflix this summer. And I personally love nothing more than an over-the-top teen drama. So of course I had to give Chilling Adventures of Sabrina a chance. It's written by the same person who created Riverdale, the pinnacle of overdramatic teen TV. And I say that with all the love and affection in my heart. Now, I started grad school in fall 2018, the same time that Adventures of Sabrina premiered on Netflix. And if you've been to grad school, you know that means I didn't get to watch any TV until I graduated. So I watched all 3 seasons, 28 episodes, in about a week and a half. And it was from this period of immersion during which I realized that I relate to Hilda Spellman on a deep, personal level, that this presentation was born. So I am happy to share with you, I'm sick of being the afterthought, the joke, Hilda Spellman's empowering domesticity in Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. If you like what you see and hear here, feel free to give me a follow on Twitter. It's a lot of YA content, Taylor Swift fangirling, and me thinking I'm funny. So the entertainment industry loves witches. I bet that everyone watching this recognizes at least one of the witches pictured here. Or at the very least, you'd recognize the name of the movie they're in. Clockwise from top left, we have Hermione Granger from Harry Potter, Bonnie, Nancy, Sarah, and Rochelle from The Craft, Samantha from Bewitched, Aggie Cromwell and Marnie Piper from Halloween Town, the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus, and Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. And that's just a small fraction of the witches I could have referenced. Trust me, I asked Twitter. But there's one family of witches I want to focus on today, the Spellmans. Sabrina Spellman and her aunts, Hilda and Zelda, were originally Archie Comics characters, but I was introduced to them, as I'm sure a lot of us were, through the 90s sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch, starring Melissa Joan Hart, Caroline Rhea, and Beth Broderick. That series ended in 2003, but in 2018, Roberto Aguirre Sacasta brought the Spellmans back to the small screen with a new and distinctly darker adaptation, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The show currently has 3 seasons with a 4th coming soon. It wasn't picked up for subsequent seasons, but Aguirre Sacasta has been teasing wicked news on his social media, which I'm sure will drop the day after I post this presentation. Specifically, though, I want to talk about Hilda Spellman. Fair warning, this presentation will spoil parts of seasons 1 through 3 of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I understand if you need to stop the video now. So who is Hilda Spellman? Hilda's the bubbly, kind-hearted, occasionally overwhelmed and bumbling caretaker aunt, whereas her sister Zelda is the smart, straightforward, de facto leader of the family. We know that Hilda doesn't look her age, given that she got drunk at Queen Victoria's coronation in 1837. We know that she's in a relationship with the local bookstore owner, Dr. Cerberus, and that her hobbies are cottagecore goals: knitting, baking, cooking, watching the Munsters, reading and writing romance novels, occasionally resurrecting from the dead. And it's this last bit, her hobbies, that I'm interested in. Rather than hindering Hilda, her traditionally feminine skills are used to showcase her strength as a witch. She's able to heal Sabrina and her friends from potentially fatal curses and injuries. She is the Academy's never bested, all-time reigning champion bubbler. And she even has time to publish a very popular book. Because of the stereotype that a strong female character is one that possesses traditionally masculine qualities and forsakes that is what's traditionally feminine, audiences might assume that Zelda is the feminist role model of the series. But Netflix portrays Hilda's stereotypically feminine skills, like healing, cooking, knitting, as being an integral part of the family's safety and success throughout the series. Her domestic skills, mixed with a little magic, are just as powerful as Zelda's tongue. And after watching the series, I was thrilled with what her character would mean for the show's audience of primarily teen girls and young women. I believe that Hilda Spellman's multifaceted characterization redefines feminist role models by allowing young female audiences to see themselves as strong, competent, and important women, regardless of their interests and skill sets. But in order to see why Hilda is so significant, we have to go back, specifically to Victorian England and the New Woman movement. The phrase New Woman was coined around 1894, but the ideas that a new woman stood for had been seen in literature for about 40 years already. In an article for the British Library, Greg Bazell defines the term as a new breed of independent educated woman who threatened conventional ideas about ideal Victorian womanhood. Ideas like the angel of the home. In real life, a new woman was a feminist and social reformer, while in literature she might leave her husband to pursue her own desires, or appear as a woman whose excellent education leaves her intellectually isolated from her family and friends. New women refused marriage, rejected motherhood, and reclaimed that which had been reserved exclusively for men: education, jobs and income, independence. Reclaiming them for their own, not unlike many later interpretations of feminism. And since the New Woman movement, we've seen almost a cycle of what society's ideal woman is, often shifting from the homemaker to the CEO to the socially awkward tomboy who's good with a weapon. And I envision this dizzying cycle as more of a pendulum. So once it swung toward the domestic, emphasizing that a good woman should be hyper-feminine, a wife and mother, meek and motherly and dependent on her husband. But feeling trapped, many women pushed the pendulum to the other side, encouraging women to embrace that which had once been denied them, from masculine clothing to masculine careers and mannerisms, and for some reason, a proclivity with heavy-duty weapons. To embrace traditional femininity was to embrace the old and oppressive status quo. Of course, the danger of any pendulum metaphor is that it attempts to dictate women's behavior, as if femininity is an either-or decision. And further examination of Hilda's character shows that women don't have to be domestic or physically strong, and that domesticity is just one of the many strengths a woman can possess. So at first glance, Hilda seems to conform to this meek and passive attitude of a proper Victorian woman, if you're thinking about Victorian England or 1950s America. She embraces that which the new women of Victorian England rejected. In her own words, Hilda wants to, quote, grow old in a little cottage with a fire and my spiders and a dog, not a stuffed one. And I don't know, I want to knit and read and watch reruns of the Munsters on TV. The domestic comforts that Hilda desires seem to contradict the goals of the New Woman movement. When she's pitted against her sister Zelda, Hilda's the less composed and the emotionally messier sister, and she's more likely to play the peacemaker of the house. Most viewers will have been conditioned to write her off, but I argue that Hilda is instead an example of 21st century entertainment redefining the parameters of feminine empowerment. Because Hilda's character does not fully reject New Woman ideals. Rather, she shows that domesticity and independence are not mutually exclusive. She still pursues an education at the Academy of Unseen Arts. She holds multiple jobs, including a barista at Dr. Cerberus's books, a romance novelist, and co-owner of the Spellman Sisters Mortuary. She chooses to remain unmarried for the first several hundred years of her life, and she does not have children until Sabrina's left in her and Zelda's care. Domestic skills are only part of Hilda's character, and by allowing Hilda to be this multifaceted woman who completely conforms neither to the helpless woman nor the new woman label, Netflix allows viewers, especially young women, to see themselves in an empowering rather than dismissive way. You know, some might call it the best of both worlds. And meanwhile, this is what it feels like to dress as a strong woman when society could change their minds at any given moment. Lots of outfit changes. No one's ever happy. And because I could talk about this for hours and hours, and no one wants that or has the time, I've had to cut a really great section that talked about sexuality, feminism, witches, teen dramas, and Hilda's relationship to it all. But please ask me about it at my roundtable discussion. I'll be on the young adult panel from midnight to 1 a.m. Greenwich Mountain Time on Thursday, November 5th. That's 6 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 4th, if you're in the States. So I hope to see you there. I've got a lot I could say. But I cut that section so I could focus on Hilda and how Chilling Adventures of Sabrina actually presents her domesticity as power. And for all the girls watching who want to grow up to be stay-at-home moms or secretaries or family and consumer science majors, that's a really cool and important thing to see. This, what I have transcribed here, is my favorite scene in the whole series. And that probably tells you more about me than you wanted to know. For me, this was the moment where you couldn't deny Hilda was every bit a strong female character as any of the pantsuit-wearing, sword-wielding women who have come before her. And she achieves that through baked goods and an intense love for her family. So my tech didn't work when I did a run-through, so I'm just going to read you the scene. Oh, Shirley, Shirley, Shirley. So folks tend to get the wrong impression of me. They always think I'm meek and mild, you know, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, story of my life. And oh, for sure, I mean, here I am playing Zelda's maid of dishonor. But I'm gonna tell you a little tiny secret about me. I love my sister. But yeah, she slays me. What are you gonna do? That's just family, you know? But with Satan as my witness, if you hurt my family, there will be heaven to pay. Threatening me, Hilda. Oh, you should know. Ever since Zelda put that earworm in my head, I've been wearing a protection that guards me against all magical attacks. I would assume nothing less, my love. That's why you're eating those almond cookies. 'Cause almond hides the taste of cyanide, you know? Shirley chokes, she dies, collapses on the table. And Hilda, gently sipping her tea. Oops, that'll bruise. You won't see Hilda cutting down enemies with a longsword like one of the other Chilling Adventures characters, Prudence, does in season 2. And you won't see her riding into battle with a bow like Katniss in the Hunger Games. Instead, she takes a domestic skill that has been trivialized and frankly underutilized in modern media and proves that it's just as deadly and less messy than hand-to-hand combat. Another great, less murder-centric Hilda moment comes in season 3. The Church of Night is losing their magic because of a testosterone-fueled power struggle between the Coven's ex-high priest, Lord Blackwood, and Lucifer. Yes, that Lucifer. He's the god figure of the show who gives the witches their powers. And Zelda, who's acting as director of the All-Witch Academy, recruits Hilda to care for the particularly ill students, which she does in part by reading to them from the current hottest romance novel, Buxom and the Beast. Zelda, displeased by her characterization as the protagonist's loveless spinster hag of a sister, confronts Hilda and gets an unexpected result when her usually timid sister stands up. So what we find out at the beginning of this scene is that the author of Buxom and the Beast is Hilda, writing under a pseudonym. So then this confrontation occurs. Now is not the time to reinvent yourself as a pulp novelist. We're in the moment of great crisis. Your responsibility is to the academy and only the academy. No, it's not. It's not. I care. Of course I care. I'll do what I can to help protect these little lambs. But the academy? It's your calling. It's not mine. You wanted to be directrix. You wanted to be high priestess, not me. You are a Spellman. You have a duty. I have a duty to myself to be happy. We'll talk about this tonight. No, we won't, because I'm going to the carnival tonight with Dr. C. So you cook your own dinner. Hilda's line of, I have a duty to myself to be happy, is key to understanding her character. Like so many feminists in history, she wants freedom to live her life how she wants to, without outside pressures forcing her into a societal mold. And Hilda's desires do lean more domestic. Her primary goal, to care for the little lambs, is domestic in nature. But the line's not played as being less worthy than, nor better than, her sister's administrative goals. They're just different. As the scene ends, Hilda's managed to gain control of the conversation, telling Zelda to, quote, cook her own dinner, implying that it's a task Zelda is neither familiar nor comfortable with. Viewers are prompted to see Hilda's defense of the domestic as a moment of self-empowerment and freedom, while Zelda's lofty career goals have left her, ironically, dependent on Hilda for even basic necessities like food. What Hilda tells girls watching the show is that it's okay if romance novels and cooking make you happy. Those interests are just as valid and important as becoming the headmistress of a school or taking over your local coven. Almost everyone who writes about witches has to address the duality of them. In her article, All of Them Witches, Individuality, Conformity, and the Occult on Screen, Sarah Ward highlights how witches have historically navigated the duality of individualism and conformity, and how modern directors have adapted this idea to young women navigating society. Kristen J. Solei's book, Witches, Sluts, Feminists, Conjuring the Sex Positive, also looks at the duality of witches and the place they hold as simultaneously, quote, a symbol of female power and, quote, a symbol of female persecution. Ultimately, she concludes that the witch is at once female divinity, female ferocity, and female transgressions. She is all and she is one. This inability to be placed in a single category, this ability to be all things, is frightening to those in power and always has been. It's why society has tried to demonize words like witch to discourage women from embracing all that it connotates. And that's why Hilda is important for young women. I know this is the young adult panel, and I've been talking about a centuries-old witch who looks like a middle-aged woman, but Hilda's character presents duality as a positive thing for young people. When Hilda tells Sabrina in episode 2, quote, when I was your age, I signed my name in the Book of the Beast. I mean, us girls didn't have any options back then. It's just simply what was done. She's implying that Sabrina does have a choice, in the same way that society is changing, so young women today have the choice to be both soft and fierce. Hilda shows us that domesticity and strength are not opposites, and that they can, and maybe should, exist within one person. To quote Little Mix and Stormzy, their power collab, she can, quote, be a woman and a boss and wear the trousers at the same time. So the TLDR is that strong and powerful women are super on trend right now. And I would add to that 21st century media may be starting to push the idea that strength and power can come from a lot of different places. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina does not promote one form of strong woman over another. Each female character, regardless of the flavor of femininity or feminism that she ascribes to, still has flaws. Sabrina is rash, Prudence is proud, Roz is insecure, Lilith is selfish. Zelda's narrow-minded, and Hilda's timid. And now, a big special thank you to the Yasa board, Emily C., Jennifer, Emily B., and Doctors Leah Phillips and Rebecca Fitzsimmons for creating this association and letting me be a part of this conference. Special thank yous to my roundtable colleagues, Rebecca, Stephanie, and Amala. Thank you for sharing your fascinating work. It's really been a pleasure. To all of the presenters, too, for putting together presentations during this weird and wild time. To my parents, George and Brenda Cline. Hi, Mom and Dad. Thank you for raising me to be soft and kind of badass. Special shout out to my cats, Minnie and Toothless, for being the best company while I've worked from home since March. You got a peek of Toothless on the cat tree earlier, and I'm not going to go back and edit him out. And a special thank you to all of you, whether you responded to my tweets asking for witchy references on Twitter, or if you're watching this right now, thank you for caring. Finally, I just wanted to give you my sources specifically cited in this presentation, and I've included a bibliography of all of my sources in the transcript. So the paper is still a work in progress, but these are the sources that I found so far that have either been illuminating, interesting, downright useful, or, like Hilda, a bit of everything. So thank you again, and I hope you enjoy all that this conference has to offer. I know I will. And I will click to the last slide. So there's the rest of them. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, middle of the night. Thanks again.